So Dan Hooker just got submitted by Arman Tsarukyan for the main event of UFC Qatar. And it really inspired me because it was a really dominant performance, but most of the damage came from a headbutt. And look, it was a great win from Arman, but it kind of reminded me of Dan Hooker's career. He's a dog, he's a bad motherfucker. He fights. He comes to fight and he comes to scrap. He doesn't come to have to do the outside foot battle. He comes to scrap. So Dan Hooker has received a lot of beatings in his careers. He's dished out some as well. So today I am going to be ranking all of Dan Hooker's beatdowns. Some of them he won, some of them he lost. One of them on here he dished out. So we just gonna get started. First of all, didn't watch his first two losses in UFC. Don't care. So we're gonna set a standard. Arman Tsarukyan, even though Dan's face was kind of damaged in that fight, it was mostly from a headbutt that caused like the brow blowing up. He did get some cuts, but I'm gonna put it at B tier. There was a bit of a beating. Okay, there was a bit of a beating. Moving on. This is a fight that Dan Hooker won, but he received a lot of damage. Okay. The Jalen Turner fight. I'm gonna put the Jalen Turner fight at A tier because honestly, even though Hooker broke his arm and it was a war, his face was battered, he dished out a lot of the beating as well. It wasn't a one-sided affair, so I can't put it on S tier. Now for S tier, I got Edson Barboza. If you've never seen this fight, do yourself a favor, and you're an MMA fan, do yourself a favor and go search up this fight on YouTube. It's on there. One of my favorite striking performances. Barboza just fucking used him as a heavy bag, dude. I remember watching a Hooker interview where he was like, yeah, I took this punch in the first round and I've just been on autopilot for a good bit. And once I woke up, both my legs were gone and my body was hurt. And yeah, that fight was a freaking beating, dude. One of the worst beatdowns. And just really showed how tough Dan Hooker is. He's a tough motherfucker, okay? We got to give him his respect for that. Let's find something that's a lot less damaging. I'm going to put the Islam Makhachev fight at the C tier. Look, Islam beat him very easily. Almost ripped his arm off, submitted him in like 3 minutes. Yes, dominant. I'm not taking anything away from that, but there was not a lot of damage. And this tier list is about damage. So, yeah, not a lot of damage for that. Another one would be a Michael Chandler fight. Look, there's a good, I'm gonna put it in B tier. He knocked out Dan Hooker. That's some brain damage there, but it was so quick and just so easy for Michael Chandler to finish Dan Hooker in that fight. Not the most damaging beatdown that Dan Hooker has received. Now, let's do another. I've been ragging on Dan Hooker for a little bit. Let's do a win of his. Claudio Puelles. I'm gonna put this in the B tier. He really beat up Claudio Puelles' body with the front kick. Bro quit to front kicks to the body. Okay, that was kind of wild to watch. This was on the prelims of UFC 291, I believe. 281, my bad. Puelles really had nothing for Hooker, bro. He just died for the legs, and when it didn't work, he just kind of quit. So, good beat down from Dan. It was good. At that time, Dan was going on that little skid, and I thought it was over for him. I picked against him for that fight. This was before my time on YouTube. And yeah, dude, he proved me wrong. So, shout out to Dan Hooker. Let's do another win. I'm gonna put the Mateusz Gamrot fight at A tier again. This is another A tier beatdown because his face. You know what? I'm gonna put it in B tier. Because he dished out a lot of the damage. His face was cut up a lot, and he did get dropped. You know what? I'm putting it in A tier. Yeah. He dished out a lot of damage, but his face was pretty battered as well. Um, Pretty self-explanatory. Now, let's go for another S tier beatdown. The Dustin Poirier fight. Even though it was a war and Dan Hooker dished out a lot of damage as well, the amount of damage that Dan Hooker received was just so much. It was just so much. He was left in a fucking puddle of his own blood at the end of that fight, and you know it's just a bad one. He had the oxygen mask um at the end of the fight, and all he had to say was "Woo!" I think that's gotta be the fight that like gave him the most brain damage, because I'm gonna put it at the top of S tier because of that. Because with Edson, he varied up the damage. Okay, he ripped the body, the legs. A lot of the damage wasn't actually to the head. Um, I think the head trauma means a little more. So I'm gonna put the Dustin Poirier fight at S tier. Um, let's throw another. The A tier is looking a little shallow, so we're gonna put the Arnold Allen fight in there. Um, yeah, even though it was a first round finish for Arnold Allen, he he beat on Dan Hooker for a good minute. Like he had him rocked and took a minute to finish him with like elbows, punches. He got dropped for a second and then kind of like came back to. It's the very bottom of the A tier. It was a good beatdown. Dan Hooker had no reason to go. Like he had no right to go back down to featherweight. I understand when your career's on a little skid, you want to shake things up. Do not go down, dude. I think a lot of fighters could do well moving up. I don't think a lot of fighters realize lighter man skill and lighter man speed. Those things are real, and if they took advantage of that, like if Dan Hooker said, "All right, I'm gonna move up," he probably would have had a better shot than fighting a young in prime Dan Hooker. I forgot this was during UFC London. I think it was the Tom Aspinall Volkov card. Forgot who was that welterweight at that time, but he would have caught some grizzly vet. It would have ended better for him. A lot of fighters need to move up more. All right, moving on to the final entry on this tier list. I'm gonna put the Yair Rodriguez fight in this C tier. Should it be the C tier? No, I'll put it in B, because he did beat up Dan Hooker for a good bit. Even though it was kind of more of an outside foot battle, kind of kick heavy fight, there wasn't a lot of damage on Dan Hooker's face. It was still a 3-round fight, and he did catch some good shin to the head. So I'm gonna put that in the B tier. But yeah, man, let me know what y'all think of all the beatdowns that Dan Hookers has received. Let me know what you think of my little tier list. Where would you have some of these? Do you agree with where I have these? If not, where would you put them? Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Follow me on X at FugaziMMA. And yes, man, I will catch y'all at the next one.